Afternoon. That means me a wife.
Get off my land!
I write you every day. Nothing but death can keep me from it.
Yo Bachi 2007 back at you with another one. And that is a little clip from the new The Color Purple film based on the play, the musical version. That was a remake of the 1985 version of the same name. And the play was at least based off of that, and this is based off of the play. So we can see what's happening there. Let's take a look next at this piece from Dark Black Magic, speaking about the original film, as we did also in the clip that I just kind of showed there from Twitter of my first video on this subject matter, and then we'll get into some more commentary.
Because the original Color Purple that debuted in 1985 was the original anti-black male film.
All my life I had to fight. I had to fight my daddy, I had to fight my uncles, I had to fight my brothers. Girl child ain't safe in the family men's.
Yeah, I really love this clip because it just demonstrates where the whole concept of all black men are basically toxic comes from. This notion that anytime men are around, of course, women can expect to be abused. And this is where they've come up with this made-up notion that every relationship somehow is abusive. We watch the Kendra G or any other of these dating shows or any of these podcasts with women talking about relationships. And somehow every relationship that a black woman's ever been in, the man was abusive. That's the reason and the only reason why it didn't work. And if they can't demonstrate or won't lie and say he was physically abusive, of course he was emotionally abusive, mentally abusive, and now they've got this new one called financially abusive. And it's all centered around ideals that came from this movie right here. And this clip is one of the main ones that all my life I had to fight. Every man she's been with somehow is an abuser. Now, let's not talk about any of the problems and toxicity that Sophia is throughout this movie. Mean, nasty, violent, disrespectful, would abandon her children to the whims of the world just to satisfy her arrogant ego and be able to run her mouth any kind of way she wants to, knowing it's going to get her in trouble and taken away from her kids. She throws her children to the wolves just to satisfy her toxic ego. But no, none of that is ever seen. All of her problems in her life are because of all these men, and all my life I had to fight. But she's the actual person who ends up causing all of the problems in her life and causes tremendous trauma for her children, all for her own ego. But that's not the message that women take away from this. It's always that it was toxic men who did it to them. Always and forever is the whole of the story. We're going to hear what James Baldwin has to say on the subject, but before we do, can you like this video? Like me up, give this video that like, subscribe as well, and hit the notification bell to make sure you can come back for more. If you go ahead and like, we're going to get right back into this and hear from renowned black author James Baldwin speaking about this back in 1986 at a press club event. Let's just go ahead.
A number of black male writers who have criticized the portrayal of black men as abusers. Portrait often drawn by black women and one which black men feel perpetuates a negative stereotype. Do you feel that the image of black men is being falsely portrayed?
I think the image of black men in this country has always been false. You know, it's latent today to blame it on black women. The Color Purple is, of course, the most controversial of these books or movies. And the only way I can answer that question is to say that I quite see, that black men that can do all those things, but then there's got to be something wrong with them. And you'd have to let me know something more than the catalog of this man's brutality. If he were white, then he would be, Paul Newman were playing that cat. You'd realize he was very, very sick, and he'd have all your sympathy. You'd hope he'd get well. But the black image is very, very different. All you got to do in order to do that is be black. Well, it's an image of black people which is not entirely Alice Walker's fault. That is the way the Republic has seen black people, black men, since they heard of black men. And that has had a terrible effect on black women. And in that context, if the motive is to be liberated from these images by exercising them really, then amen.
You have to let me know something more than the catalog of that man's brutality. But what do we get from The Color Purple? We get a veritable replay of The Birth of a Nation. This paragon of racist propaganda that showed black men as nothing more than wild beasts, the marauding Negro out to abuse and rape the white woman. What The Color Purple does says not just the white woman, he does the same to us too. We can tell you from the inside and affirm this white supremacist imagery of the black man, that imagery that James Baldwin talked about, that is the imagery that has always been the imagery of the black man in America. This is what he's referring to. And then The Color Purple comes along and says, yes, this is what a Negro is. This image is 100% true, and you should string them up. This imagery that is being portrayed is in order to diminish the human value of black people, of black men in particular, in specific, so that then whatever is done to a black man is seen as okay and just fine. That's why George Floyd wasn't the first Negro's neck that Derek Chauvin had kneed on. And that's why it wasn't a problem. Because this is what you need to do with these beastly Negroes. No problem. This is what they need. Of course, as James Baldwin pointed out, if it's a white man, then there would be understanding and there would be the desire to know what's wrong with him. What happened in his childhood? What are his traumas? Why is he conducting himself this way? How can we help him and get help? Because mental health is so important. But with the black man, of course, he's just a beast. He's just a beast just because, and all black women are victims because of this thing that happened to one black woman, supposedly, 100 years ago. Somehow now all black women are victims of all black. What one black man did to one black woman makes all black women victims of all black men, for which all modern black men should pay for now. So goes their logic, or their excuse making, or their reasoning for their misandry, and for them to perpetuate these ideologies, and then to basically abuse men with the powers of the gynocery, with the state behind them to enforce their abusive actions towards men. And this is supposed to be acceptable based on the premise, this false premise that I demonstrated in my last video, that on this subject, that me being from Montgomery, Alabama, my family being from Montgomery, Alabama, which is about an hour away from the Georgia border where this movie takes place. I actually know people who grew up in these rural areas of this part of the world at this time, and this is not true to their lives. This is a fictional fantasy of some, at best, fraction of 1% happening that ever happened, if ever happened at all. In the way that it's demonstrated in this movie, it didn't happen. With this rich man owning this massive plantation, and these black men having full reign over this the community and society, and black men trading in their children for chickens and a horse. And then the black women go off to Africa, and they all went to Africa and built great lives and came back to, why ain't they still ain't in Africa then? Why are they all here now? Like, stop it. As James Baldwin noted, the color purple doesn't demonstrate a whole man, but what it does do is denigrate a whole race of men to the detriment of the entirety of the black community. And the fact that black women continue to want to participate in this, to want to parrot and continue the denigration of black men in the same spirit of W.D. Griffith in The Birth of a Nation is maddening, but worse yet, saddening. Yobachi 2007. We're going to get out of here on this note. Again, like this video, subscribe to the channel, please. Hit the notification bell to make sure videos are getting surfaced to you. Yobachi 2007. I'm out.